Hello, and welcome to Honest Faith Conversations. As always, I am your co-host, Miguel Covarrubias.
And I am Kathy Covarrubias, and today let's talk about Ozark, Part 2.
So, to let you all know, there is going to be spoilers for this episode, since we are going over the end of the show. We did finish the last few episodes since our podcast last week.
Yep.
Want to thank all of you for listening, even if you didn't send us any feedback. We didn't get any, but if you were thinking about it, then thank you for that too. The thought is what counts. But hey, think about it for next time. Even send us your suggestions for what we should do next.
Yep, there's a lot of stuff coming out. I know we're still kind of behind on our movies. We'll try to remedy that as soon as we have time to actually go to the movies. But don't worry, we haven't forgot about like Wonder Woman or Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yep.
Yeah, we will watch those eventually, we promise.
Whenever we get a babysitter.
Yes. Hint, hint.
So last week we talked a bit about the first 6 episodes of Ozark. We did really kind of find through the last episodes that a lot of what we talked about turned out to be quite accurate and apt for the show. Mm-hmm. It is very much about money, very much about that kind of sense that we saw last week.
And it did answer some questions that we had for last week too, like characters with different motivations, which is what we're going to be talking about mostly today.
Yep.
And talking about that, one of the things that one of the major questions at the end of our last episode was, what got Marty into this sticky situation in the first place? Like, he seemed like a family man. Like, why would he, like, be fine with getting himself into this mess? So, in one of the episodes, we have a little bit of a flashback. And the question was finally answered. And in the flashback, we learned that the reason why he's working with Del Rio is essentially Del Rio went to him and said, hey, my books don't look right. Can you look at it? See what's going on. And he found out that his other bookkeeper or financial person or whatever was actually skimming from the top. And then Marty's like, yeah, he's been doing that, but there you go.
Yep.
Goodbye now. And but Del Rio was like, oh, you're smart at this. I want you on board. And so at first he kind of was like, no, thanks. You're doing something illegal. I don't know what it is. I can kind of tell. But he still went with it. Like, he talked to Wendy, and Wendy was like, yeah, do it. All you're going to be doing is just moving money from account to account like you always do with everything else. So what's the difference? The difference being, it's drug money.
Well, I think Marty was more of the convincer because he had already said yes at that point.
Yeah.
They were on that vacation. They were on at the retreat as, he was gifted that for finding this.
Yep, and they decided to take it because Wendy was so depressed. So this was more like, my impression was that they decided to take the trip, not thinking that they were going, like Marty was actually going to work for him, more as we need a vacation. Wendy needs something to make her feel better. Let's do this to help better Wendy. And that's kind of what really stems from all of Marty's decisions. It's now what's going to be best for my family members.
Yep.
It goes out of control from there. And what I didn't know was that Wendy has known about this all along, for the most part. He sits down with her and talks about this. Me, I don't know, if you came to me and was like, hey, Kathy, I have this business proposition, but I'm pretty sure this guy is a serial killer, but I'm going to make a lot of money with it. I'd be like, yeah, but he's a serial killer. I wouldn't go along with it, if something was that illegal. I don't know. I don't know if I would be able to talk myself into it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few shady job offers in the past, but that's I don't think that I even know anybody that I would not I would not say that, I'd have to think about it for a while. And I mean, I don't even know if that's the case where anybody would even remotely think of my skills as being marketable enough for being used for criminal activities.
Yeah, but say that in some magical world you had some magical ability and that, you were perfect for some kind of crime lord and he came to you. I'm pretty sure I'd be like, no, let's just stick to legitimate stuff. Like, I couldn't do it. I don't know, especially with the drug cartel. Like, nope.
Well, yeah, the drug cartel is just, pretty bad as it is. And, considering how they're currently, overrun Mexico, and we talked about this a bit last week, it's not safe to get involved in any of that.
No, and it's scary. And even the locals who aren't involved in it are scared to death of them. Because they just flaunt, they hang people just from bridges all the time. And that's just a normal occurrence. It's just too much.
Not all the time.
Okay, not all the time. A lot of the times, though. Some of the times, it's still pretty scary.
Yes,
that's my point. So that's like Marty, going from a good guy to kind of going to the bad guy, but really he's never not bad, really, for the most part. He tries to talk his way out of people dying. He tries to talk himself out of doing anything that's going to be too criminal, I guess. Even though, moving around drug money is pretty criminal. Anyway, then there's Ruth, who she started out as being not a smart criminal. Well, she's in her family, she's the smart criminal, but she comes from a family of very dumb criminals. They do a lot of petty thefts. They're known in town as, the family that is constantly stealing and is constantly in jail for stealing. So anytime anything goes wrong, their family gets the blame for it. And 9 times out of 10, they're right. It's the family that's responsible for most of the crimes.
Which is why I guess now former owner of the Blue Cat had a problem with her working there and was calling her out when she saw her texting saying, I don't want families who come to eat here going home to find out that their place has been robbed. Yep.
And that's why I think that's why she was kind of sort of okay with her just being a dishwasher. Fine, just keep her away from the money. Whatever. But she even threatens her, even if you steal a spoon from me, you're out of here. But we see throughout the course of the story, as Ruth starts to get more responsibility from Marty, Marty's realizing that, so she's not really the dumb criminal. She has some pretty good ideas in terms of how to commit crimes, I guess. I don't know, sounds very strange to me praising somebody for a crime, but really, compared to the rest of her family, she clearly is the brains of the operation. And even with that, her family doesn't give her good enough credit, I don't think. They're constantly putting her down. Even though she is smart, they just don't give her the credit and don't give her the status that she should be given in the family, is what probably just because that she is a woman and she's a young woman too. Mm-hmm. And I think she realizes that too, especially when Marty has his family crisis and Charlotte has decided to run away. And Ruth is finally realizing, so that's what a dad is supposed to be like? Dads aren't supposed to judge you from inside prison cells. Dads are actually supposed to, make sure that you're okay. So I think that was her big turning point there.
I think it was at that point when she realized that Marty was much more, that the whole family there was more useful than even some of her own family members. And I think that when she discovered what was going to happen with her uncles, that's why she turned on them. You know, that's why she had that motivation to really say, no, this is not right. You know, if you want a better life for, what is his name? 3 and the older cousin.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember their names. But that's okay. Her 2 cousins.
Yeah, her 2 cousins, that you wouldn't be doing this. And, knowing her cousin and knowing her uncles, I think she made the choice to do what she did because she wanted to start going down a new path.
Yep.
She wanted to make a better way for her family. She wanted to make a better way for those kids.
A better, smarter way. I mean, crime isn't smart, but compared to what they were doing, at least think about, because she was right. Like they need to be smart about how they spend their money. They can't just go out and buy like bobcats and not even check the gender of the bobcats.
Yep.
Like they were kind of hitting something, but it just didn't. It just fell through. But ultimately, I feel like with both Marty and with Ruth, we were talking about how it's family and like the betterment of the family or the family that they love. Like that's their motivation. That's why they're doing the crimes and doing the things that they're doing, is to try to protect their family. It's not really with money, even though there is a lot of money involved in it. And that is part, like that's like, I would say a small portion of it for them, but it's not the main portion of it. The main is making sure that the family is being provided for.
Yeah, and she was actually getting quite a good paycheck from running the strip club.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I think even without having to skim any money off of the strip club or like launder money through that, I think she would still be making good money because she has a better business model than the previous owner.
Yeah, to be hired, you basically had to perform some sex act on him. Yeah, that was not. Yeah. Anyway, and I think that we'll see where it goes in season 2. But with the ending the way that it was with Jacob and his family, I think that it would make much more money. It would have laundered much more money had they actually had a good business model to begin with for that. And so, I mean, considering the casino is probably going to make them bank, and there's going to be, a whole lot of issues with that the next season.
I was about to say, if that even comes about,
Yeah, and considering that they did kind of put a big, huge problem in their way with killing Del Rio at the end, which I did say spoilers at the beginning, so...
Did we? Well,
yes,
too late.
And, I mean, that really proves this point that, all action is driven by motivation. Mm-hmm. I think that's what makes this show so good, and that's what made Breaking Bad so good to begin with as well, is that these are actors really portraying the motivations of a sole individual.
Yep.
That each of us have our own agenda, have our own path that we're trying to make in this world. And I think Marty really wanted the best for his family. He loved his family, he loved his wife, he loved his kids, and he knew he was just, some
average financial and investment guy.
Yeah, and this person who's offering him the chance to pay for his great-great-great-grandchildren's college is, to him, a little bit of a savior. This is why, it really motivates him, because that's what their problem was. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were going to have a third kid until that accident. They were, going to be in this real kind of situation, this dire straits when it came to money. And the money did motivate his life, and that, I think, really motivates his opening speech from the show with saying, measuring your life in gold rather than in what it really means.
And what I think is interesting with Marty too is that the way that his character is set up, he clearly sees the value of other people's money, and he is very much more invested in making sure that their money grows. Well, now he has to be, because if not, him and his family are going to possibly die. So it's just interesting to me that and that's what really, like, what I would kind of toyed with being an idea of being like a financial investor and like helping people out with their finances and growing their money. And my real motivation was to help other people like achieve their financial goals, like whether that is just getting out of debt, if it's saving for retirement. Like, I really thought about that because I started to do that a little bit when I was in banking, kind of helping people out, like figure out what they needed to do. And I think that's part of what Marty was doing that for.
And really, this is something that harkens back to my theater training, and I'm pretty sure your theater training as well. My director was very much very involved in making sure that we knew that every action was driven by a motivation for something. Mm-hmm. Was why is your character doing that? It would always stop us and ask us that if we were not in a scene, if we were not really there as that character in the scene,
like,
she
just
would make
like
sure
standing
to ask.
there and like doing your lines,
yeah,
and not actually acting.
Yeah, it's basically why is this character doing this? Is once you understand something, you understand why they're doing something. That makes the character so much more real. Mm-hmm. I think this is true for the audience as well. Is if you can understand why a character is doing something, even if it, that's what part of the actor is portraying that truth. Mm-hmm. In a way, is really putting forward that motivation for the character. Now, granted, there are some really bad actors that they don't even know their own motivation for being there, and
yep.
So we can harken back to The Room as a prime example of this. Like, Lisa, you are tearing me apart. That whole thing is a complete example of somebody who has no motivation. It's the entire movie, like the plot is about motivation, but it falls apart so quickly.
Well, to be fair, I also think, that movie had more than just bad acting in it. It was bad writing.
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah, so it was just a combination of a lot of things, but...
Oh, hi, Mark. So when greed rather than generosity drives our motivation, that really ends up becoming that part of us that really drives us into making these bad decisions. Mm-hmm. And especially for Marty, in this point, is he needed the money, and he was going to do whatever it took to get the money. And considering, where we've been throughout our married life, as well as, where I've been throughout my adult life. And when I needed money at my lowest, there were times when I considered doing things that, were not exactly above board or legal. And, that's something that, I really didn't want to do because, well, for one thing, I felt like it would have tarnished my reputation as a youth minister if it came back. But I also kind of felt like back when I was more evangelical that, if I end up in prison sometime, that would lend more to my testimony and being able to tell my story.
What? You thought that?
Yeah, back when I was more evangelical, but that was like way back. That was like, first year of college or something. So. What
the heck? Sorry, that just like baffles me. Like, you were okay like breaking the law just to like improve your testimonials?
That's some of the weird twisted thinking that some evangelicals get into, and that's it's not abnormal, especially for people who are driven by those things, who are driven to want to make a better story, to be better storytellers. But
that's like manipulating your story. That's not like...
It is. And that's why so many times now I'm able to spot somebody who is manipulating their story, is because I know. Uh-huh. Because I've been there before. I knew that manipulating your story makes your story better. And so that, ultimately I realized that truth is better than fiction.
Yep.
that if you have really gone through the honest, struggle through all of these things, then that makes your story so much better. Granted, it really hasn't made, any of my stuff successful yet, but, hopefully people who know this know that I want to tell honest stories. That's why we call this Honest Faith, is because I want it to be honest. Above all, is to be completely true about who we are and about the things that we find in these media pieces. So
even if that means admitting that at one point in time you thought going to jail would be a good thing.
Well, I was twisted, and this is the problem with that evangelical culture with when the gospel has been twisted by greed, when it's being driven by greed rather than generosity, that's what the gospel is that God loves everyone regardless. And that's generosity. That is not greed at all. If God is greedy for anything, God is greedy for our relationships with Him, which we're given the free choice to say yes or no about. Yep. But this gospel message that the West has become obsessed with is that, if you follow God, you get health, wealth, and whatever. And we talked about that last week, but in this instance, you see this in the show, and especially in the last couple of episodes when the preacher kind of goes off the deep end, when he can't keep preaching with them doing the drug deals out there,
especially knowing what's going on, the fact that his wife most likely is murdered. We don't have the body, but we're pretty sure that she's been murdered. He's now taking care of this infant all by himself, and we all know good and well that, in that relationship, she was going to be the caretaker of the baby, and he was just going to, be the stereotypical, just, man who works and comes home and eats dinner and goes to bed. And so, he, was totally thrown in a loop. His whole life, and, the past, couple weeks has been, totally thrown away with what he was before.
And what I was saying was that he was so driven by this idea of what the gospel was meant to be, that he was driven by his own story, that he decided that his own choices, his own desire to make his own congregation better, that the greed of that kind of warped him into doing these things. And even that thought, as you brought up, is that, not knowing how to raise a kid and stuff like this is, kind of leads him to that path at the end, which, he sees Marty as the devil. He sees, the child is not a good thing. And I don't know about his moment in the water there with the weird baptism that was maybe a breaking point. That he was maybe going to drown the baby, but he decided not to.
Gosh, I hated that scene so much.
It was not a real baby.
I know it wasn't a real baby, but, I hated that scene so much. I'm, starting to tear up. That's how much, I did not like that scene at all. At all.
But that was his motivation. This is the weird, twisted gospel. And I think that this show ultimately shows that that's what it's become about the church. And I think that they see it too, is that the church has become more about members, butts in the seats, money in the pockets than it has been about the gospel, which is generosity. Yeah. And it really, I wrote about this last week in my blog, but I find it really tough to consider the church is motivated by generosity for people. There are some genuine churches. There are genuine churches who are actually doing some wonderful things. I have just seen way too many horror stories in my own time working with the church that, make me not want to find the good sometimes in that. And, this is why I understood the preacher's motivations, why, I understood kind of his naivete with that whole thing was that, yeah, that was me. That was me a long time ago. That's the same kid that would have wanted to embellish his story, that would have wanted to go to prison just so that he could, have a better story.
Oh, could you have imagined like how you would have reacted, like your younger self, if you had experienced what we experienced like recently, like at that time in your life?
No. I think that I needed to go through what I went through in order to still be sane.
Oh yeah. No, I'm just thinking like you probably would have reacted like that if you had gone through what you did, like when you were younger and naive.
I really think that, as many people have gone through, is that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to, really dream big sometimes and really go for those dreams, but in the context of generosity, of giving all that you can to it, so that, you're giving all to those who are even competing with you. That the world is not, in my eyes, those who are most successful are not the ones who are doing it all for themselves and just doing it for them. Instead, they're the most successful people are the ones that are offering hands out, rather than, hands down or hands pushing people aside to get to the front. No, it's those who help each other and get to the front. That we all go together. And I think that's what, is motivating Marty a little bit is, we're all going to go together. Is that, I need to keep my family safe first, foremost. But then, we're going to benefit from this. This is why I think he comes in as an angel investor to begin with. He wants the businesses to be successful, because if he doesn't have a successful business, he can't successfully launder money through the business.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I think he feels okay with doing what he's doing, because he's like, well, I'm really helping these people out.
Yeah.
Like, I really do want them to succeed.
And I really see that, his motivations maybe being bad, but I think he is ultimately working for a good path. And I know that oftentimes good intentions don't really mean that they're going to have good actions. And
oh yeah.
But I think that really what's shown more than anything else in this show is that life cannot be measured by golden rulers. Instead, it should be measured by the golden rule, which, like I said, I wrote about this week. What I mean by golden rulers is that we measure our life in gold, and our society tells us, you can measure your life and how successful you are if you have mansions, you have cars, you have stuff, you have money in the bank, whatever. You're making it rain. Or in our case, you're making it hail. Because, all we have is coins. And so you make it hail.
No, I'm just imagining, like, on my one of my coworkers, we were the joke was when he left that he was just going to take his drawer of money and just make it rain and be like, peace out. It did not happen, but sorry, that's why I was laughing, because I know somebody out there has done that before. If you have a video of somebody just doing that on their last day of work,
as a bank teller or a cashier,
yes, just making it rain and just like walking out, please share it with me. I will be your friend forever.
Well, and I think that this is, ultimately, that's, kind of where the speech at the beginning was. I think this is at the end where Marty's just kind of done at the very end there, where he's laying on the trampoline and his family shows up. I mean, they know that they're better together than they are apart. He knows that his life is better measured in his family rather than in the money that he's making. And I think that the entire show is kind of about that, is about our connections with each other, is that your life is better measured through your connections to other people rather than your connections to money or your networks. And, I found it funny because there was, this week there was a post by BuzzFeed, one of the BuzzFeed affiliates, and about what people who side hustle, what they really think about, breaks or what they do with other parts of their lives. And I think most podcasters can speak to this. Most bloggers can speak to this. That most of these, they're side hustles. They're ways, to get your creativity out there. And maybe, you want to make a little money from it because this is something you love to do, something that you really enjoy doing, and it's your art. And maybe you're not that great at it, but you want help getting ahead. You want to connect with others who are doing it too. And I think that's what it means to me is that's the podcasting with anything that's on Honest Faith. It's about not just making money for my family, but it's also about making those connections. It's about getting my art out there, getting my voice heard, letting my story be told. And that's why I ultimately wanted to start Post Church Christians, which is the other digital community that I started on Facebook, which still trying to build. But it's about your stories, is to share your stories, to let your voice be heard. Even if, you've made that transition out of the church, if you're not out of the church, is to, share your story and make it known so that people, know that they're not alone, that they matter. And so, that's what I really found funny about it was that, these are called side hustles because they're trying, people are trying to make money on the side. But I think that a lot of the times when they're doing that, it's about making connections.
Yeah.
About making connections to other people who are like them, because they're struggling to find that they're not alone.
Well, yeah, if you think about even those companies that sell the leggings and the makeup and the bags and the nail art, a lot of those companies are hey, stay-at-home moms, do you want to contribute to the household? So, they're, still, bringing in... They're purposely trying to find people who have some kind of, connection together.
Yeah.
And most of the time it is, stay-at-home moms or housewives who just want to, earn a little bit more income or who actually do need to, bring in income somehow, but they can't afford childcare. So this is one of those things that they try to do. And right then and there, by making a shout out to those people to try to bring them in, immediately they're oh, well, there's going to be other people like me also doing this as well. So then I can start building a community. And that is the case. I mean, I have family who's done stuff like that, and it definitely helps build form a community and a friend base. Just because you're doing this and you're working at the same place and have the same struggles as trying to do a home business. I mean, that's just my 2 cents in that matter.
Well, and...
Where side hustle is concerned with.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? What do we take away from Ozark overall? And
don't get involved in the drug cartels?
Yeah. Well, I think the very first one is what you talked about, is judge not. Don't judge somebody before you actually understand where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. You understand the motivations behind their actions. Is that most of the time, I mean, you have people who are just seriously trying to make a connection. I don't see very many millennials or digital natives. I don't know so much about Gen Xers, only because I'm that weird Zennial, where I'm a millennial and also Gen Xer, but I'm in that weird middle ground. But I don't see a whole lot of millennials and digital natives who are solely motivated by money. And I think that's where the major disconnect between older generations and ours, because they think that ultimately a lot of the things that we're doing is motivated by money, because that's where they were motivated by at our age. Which, no, I think it's completely different now. Yeah. I think it's changed, is that we want real, authentic connections. That, we've had this digital stuff. We know what it's like, but it seems empty to us. That, yeah, we can be whoever we want, or we can do whatever we want on the internet and nobody knows that you're a dog, but
or not a dog,
that you really want to make real world connections. You want the life that sitcoms showed you was somewhat possible, which is not real. You can't sit around in a coffee shop all day long. That's not possible. You need to make money.
Well, and even like when they do are at work, it's like for 15 minutes, and they're like, okay, everything's good, time to go home. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, I really want to know how in the world a paleontologist can hang out at a coffee shop all day and still be paid.
I want to know why he's solely based in New York. You would think he'd be traveling more. There's not many sites that he can go visit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or even Ted Mosby. How can an architect hang out in a bar all day? How can it be drinking at 11 a.m. and still be an architect? This is something that I don't understand, how people in sitcoms actually make money.
I don't know.
I have a real job now, and we've got this side hustle. It's but for me, it's more about making connections. And also paying the bills.
Yeah.
But
the nice thing about our job, too, is our normal day job, is that the company that we work with now has realized that people in our generation do value connection. So they have a really good time off policy. They have really good incentives for doing well. Part of the incentives are party time with your team members. So it's not hey, you're going to have additional time away from the phones, but it's also trying to build a team. Team building is very, very big in where we work at. And I think that's good, because that's, helping us build connections, even if it is just work connections.
Well, like I said, it's one of the number one motivators for this company that we work for now is the golden rule. And I think that ultimately that really plays into this whole show, is that treat others the way you want to be treated. And I really think that Marty kind of struggles with that a little bit, but he ultimately comes back to that so often, is that I think that deep down, yes, he's a good guy. I mean, he struggles with being a good guy. He struggles with Wendy, with forgiving her and really seeing her as a human being after what she did. He struggles with Ruth and seeing her as a human being, but he ultimately does see her as a human being.
Yeah, and he does realize that she is valuable.
He struggles with Buddy and seeing him as a human being and treating him like a human being. And
then Buddy goes and saves his family, and then he's like, oh, I guess we can keep you around.
Yeah.
Even though you wander around naked on our yard.
So I think ultimately the golden rule does play a lot into this show, and I think that that's something that so many churches and so many religious organizations kind of tout, is that we're part of the golden rule. And the funny thing is, we've been trying to learn this for 4,000 years. This goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, to almost 2000 BCE, that we've been trying to learn, treat others as you want to be treated. And, Jesus kind of popularized this for Christianity, and other, faith masters kind of popularized this for their own religious communities. And still, 4,000 years, we still haven't gotten this. We've kind of turned and oh, hey, money's cool. Yeah, maybe money will solve all of our problems. And trust me, I get it. I get that money can, provide security and not having to worry about, where you're going to get the money to pay your bills this month and stuff like that. I get that. You know. I know exactly how many diapers our next paychecks will buy. And so, it's really, I understand why it was a motivating factor. And I understand now more than ever why we need the golden rule, why we need to treat others as we want to be treated. And I think that ultimately the show shows it, especially in that frame of economy, in the frame of money. And I think that this is ultimately a great show to kind of show this huge dichotomy between the golden rule and golden rulers.
Yeah, I think in, this is just Kathy's thoughts, but I think in order to be the best person you can be, you have to have a nice balance of both. Mm-hmm. Like being able to have enough money to feel secure, and not worry about, how you're going to feed your family, but then also have enough kindness and generosity to be able to give people the dignity that they deserve.
Yeah. And to give generously. If somebody needs from you, give. Mm-hmm. And, that's really, I think, what the gospel is about. So, now that we're running out of time, we've got to wrap up. So, please, if you have any feedback for us, please send it to us over via social media or by email, which is honestfaithconvos@gmail.com. Or give us a call on our phone line and leave us a message, 720-372-3879. Speaking of social media and all the various media outlets that we are on, that our podcast is carried on. If you have listened to our podcast and you like our podcast, please, please, please review us on whatever media that it is that you listen to us on. It really helps us out. It helps to get, our story out to more people. Like I said before, it's about making connections for us. Not exactly the money, because we're not making any money off of this. We just enjoy doing it.
I know it's called a side hustle, but we're not.
We're not really hustling. We're hustling, but we're not getting anything from it. And so review us, especially on iTunes, because I know that matters on iTunes more than they call it Apple Podcasts now. So that matters there more than anywhere else. And please like, share, and subscribe on your social media accounts. Let people know about us, because we would love to hear more from other people too. You can share us at Real Honest Faith on Facebook, at Real Honest Faith on Twitter, or go to the website thehonestfaith.com. And while you're there, you might as well buy a book too. With all that being said, we invite you to come and join the conversation.
Bye.